Welcome back to The Chosen Life for our monumental episode number 75. And when you reach 75 episodes of an award-winning one-day podcast, you can only have one co-host when you're the chosen lawyer, and that's the money man, Zachary Rain of Rain Finance. Zach, welcome back to The Chosen Life.
Thank you. And congratulations on 75 episodes. That is a massive accomplishment.
You know, you manifest something, you think about it, you look at your shirt one day and you're like, hey, let's just roll this thing out. And we have made it to 75 episodes. We made it much farther than the Maple Leafs, which we will talk about today at some point, of course.
Naturally.
But Zachary Rain, first of all, Rain Finance, how are you, my friend? We're going spring into summer. How's the money trees? How's the money situation? What's the money talk on the street?
The money talk on the street, there's a lot of money talk on the street right now. There's Canadian money talk, American money talk, global money talk. The talk on the street right now is pretty much just to look at the US banks, see what's going on with those, to see what our government is doing with respect to another interest rate hike, as we're looking down one probably within a month's time. I don't know how excited everyone's going to be about it, but inflation went up for the first time in something like 8-9 months. So people aren't too happy about that. But overall, I think the outlook is actually positive, which is really nice. So that's the talk on the street. But things in the world are good, man. Every day the sun comes up and there we are.
So let's have our uplifting episode today because we want to help people make more money, keep more money in their pockets. That's what it's all about. So today's episode is let's learn a little bit more about the ins and outs of monies with Zach and how do we make our money dreams come true.
God willing.
So we got our agenda going for today. And first and foremost, Zach, we're going to start off with the acronym RESP. So people tend to confuse for some reason RRSP, RESP, RESP, That's what you got to bring to me. So what is all this stuff going on? And is RSP, RESP the same thing, Zach?
No, they're not the same thing. Although I don't blame a lot of people. The acronyms, especially these days, they're running wild. So an RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, that is an account purposed for your retirement. An RESP is a Registered Education Savings Plan. That is purposed for the growth of education savings that will be used for post-secondary education for child, your kid, grandkid, cousin, nephew, whatever it is. So they're two different accounts. They're distinct. They're both registered, which is why you hear that R to start with, which just means that there's tax advantages and they're tracked by the government in different ways than they would be other accounts.
So let's put aside RSP for this episode. We'll get into retirement one day. We're really young, Zach, and we're really vibrant. So we got to the gym this morning. We're feeling good. No need to worry about retirement right now. But this RESP thing intrigues me greatly. So let's get a scenario. You got new clients. You got referred over to this new couple, Bill and Jane. And Bill and Jane come and they tell you exciting news. We just had our first baby. We got baby Timmy. Timmy is now 1 month old, and we heard about this thing called RESP, but, Timmy's just born. He's 1 month old. So he's got to be far away from thinking about post-secondary. So we were thinking, Zach, since we're really bright people and we like to leave things to the last minute, we're thinking probably around the time it was around grade 10, grade 11, high school. That's what we should start thinking about is college university fund. What do you think about that? What would you tell this nice couple about their baby Timmy?
I would first wish them congratulations because, new kid, 1 month, that's really fresh. So congratulations on baby Timmy.
A beautiful baby, by the way. It's beautiful baby.
I imagine so.
Happy. Every parent, their baby's beautiful, right?
I know, cutest baby, right? We all have the cutest babies. No, I would tell them, obviously, it's not great to wait. If I would say do what you can. I'd obviously explain the product, meaning, the type of account, how it works for them, how it can work for them, at least the opportunities available. And then, once they have the ability to make an informed decision, I would just leave it in their hands, right? The reality is not everybody can necessarily afford to contribute to an RESP, just because on the list of accounts to contribute to, it's not number one. Obviously there's TFSAs and RRSPs, which are number one and two punch. So, of the first two accounts to save for would be those two. And then on top of that, there's obviously many other expenses, which right now people are certainly feeling. Hopefully it doesn't last for too long. But it's a measure of what you can afford. And then obviously after that, if you can't afford it, okay, it's now what's smart. And the basic rationale with any type of investment is to spend time in the market. Don't try and time the market, spend time in the market, meaning invest for as long as you can, experience high market highs, market lows, average growth, periodic growth, whatever it is. There's so many cyclical investments out there, that we want to make sure that we're in the market for a long time and a good time.
So let me ask you. So first of all, my vague understanding of this, that per child, you can invest X amount per year. I mean, you can put unlimited amounts of money, but there's only so amount of money that you can put in every year that the government will give you money as far as matching or gives you an incentive. And then there is a cap of the amount of money you can put in over the life of this RESP. So you can
Mm-hmm.
contribute till the end of time. Do I have a vague understanding of it, or am I
No,
off
you've got
base?
a you got a really good understanding of it. So to best understand the limits and the rules and everything, the best way to look at it is the way that you just phrased it, which is the government's incentive for you to save for your kids' education. Okay, so if we start off with Timmy's 1 month old, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, because you have Timmy, the government wants you to save for your child's education. Why? Because we want to invest in education, right? The investment of knowledge is a massive return, which is a whole other study to begin with. But the government basically just wants skilled laborers, especially now, which post-secondary education more often than not required. They want professionals. Post-education, post-secondary school education, almost always required. So they're looking for people to save money for the kids' educations after high school. Now, by doing so, they're going to give you 20% of your annual contribution every year up until $2,500 as a grant, which is just essentially $500 of free money, which is really, really cool. Yes, you're right. There's a lifetime limit, so you can only contribute $50,000 up for the lifetime of the individual RESP, each child's RESP. They're going to give you a lifetime grant maximum contribution limit of $7,200, which roughly works out to about $36,000 of your own contributions. That's the most you'll get in grants. Now, if you're in a low income bracket, you can also apply for learning bonds, Canadian learning bonds, which is just another incentive for those who are, not necessarily earning the same income as, the middle high income families that can really afford to contribute more money to an RESP. So you're spot on with that. It is a great incentive to save money. You can mix accounts. So for instance, if, instead of just having Timmy, you have a Timmy and a Tammy, twins, congratulations, double the double the fun. Let's just say that. Then you can open what we call a family RESP, which is for two children. Great advantage is if one kid decides they want to go become a brain surgeon and needs 52 years of schooling, exaggerated, of course.
Or an influencer?
Yeah, exactly. And the other one decides to become an influencer, which, doesn't require any schooling, and they say forget about anything after high school. Well, there's certain advantages that you can have in using income generated, growth generated, grants generated from one child who isn't going to a post-secondary education to the child that's going to be in school until they're 50. So there's many, many different advantages. And obviously, RESPs, especially because they're government regulated and it's a generational product, there's a lot of rules. But for the basic understanding today, that's exactly it. If you put in $1, they're going to give you 20 cents back, up until certain maximums, of course. But it's another great incentive. And then naturally, as a registered product, it's growing tax advantaged. So you're going to experience tax deferred growth for those first however many years until your kid decides to go to school.
I find it mind blowing though that parents like Timmy's parents, for example, no matter at their bracket, unless they're literally living paycheck to paycheck, you know, how much easier would they make it on themselves if earlier on, starting to put that money slowly away into RESPs. We'll talk about bonds. You read my mind. It's going to come up. Don't worry. But whatever form of investment for the education versus the children that come to the point that they're 17, 18, like, oh, wow, okay, we're going to be going to post secondary now. I guess I got to go get a loan now because I didn't put away any money at all. It's a scary proposition where you keep saying, I'm going to put it off for another year. I'm going to put it off for another year. And it's so easy to do that, isn't it, Zach?
It is. It's very easy to do that. I have a lot of younger clients naturally, just because my age attracts younger clients. So I have professionals that are making millions of dollars a year as clients. I have the average person, which is just working their 9 to 5 day to day, which may not be making millions of dollars a year. And the reality is when you do budget planning and we're getting things done, such as mortgage payments, saving for RSPs and TFSAs, which are more important, that comes first. And you have just the cost of life beside it. It's more daunting to save for your kids' RESPs than one thinks. I often find that family will help out. So for instance, grandma and grandpa will say, okay, well, this is going to be part of our gift for this kid on an annual basis. So that's a great way to look at it. But you're right. If it is a possibility, it's an option. If you work with somebody like me and you can find a way to reduce your budget to the point where you can contribute to an RESP, it's a great investment vehicle. It has its disadvantages and cons, just like anything in life, which you can examine. Are there alternatives for saving for education? Yes, but that's more of a to each his own conversation. And I think for the general person, an RESP is a great vehicle to use.
So for all you out there that have those children, plan those children, think about post-secondary in the future, talk to the money man, Zachary Rain, get the planning going early because early planning leads to greater fruition into the future. Now, going into topic number 2 related, Timmy's now turned 18, by the way. He's just fast tracked like that. That's how he works.
Wow. Life flies.
Time flies, and he's undergrad in business school. He's really excited, right?
Okay.
And one of his first courses he took was finance. They have
luck.
now introductory to finance, and he's really excited for introductory to finance. And he comes to his money man, Zachary Rain. Zachary is now, about 50, 60 years old. He's really established. Looks great for 50, 60, by the way. Well, way to go, Zach.
Thank you.
No problem. And then so Timmy says to you, I've been studying this stuff in finance and I've heard these terms on TV, but I don't really know what to do with this. Bonds, stocks. I want to make money, Zach. I've heard that bonds are a way to go, but I've heard stocks are a way to go. But to be honest, without Googling it or AI, I have no clue what the heck this is. So can you please explain to me in plain English what a stock is and what a bond is?
No problem. Yeah, no. Thank God Timmy hasn't looked it up on ChatGPT yet, or whatever version is there yet. So, a stock is a contractual right and ownership of a publicly traded company. What that means is every company who is publicly traded, meaning they are available for pretty much and the general public to invest in, has a certain number of shares, right? Think of it as a pieces of a pie, however you want to phrase it, that the average individual can own, corporations can own, funds can own. There's so many options as to different types of stocks you can invest in out there, but it's your share of a company's ownership. So if a company out there, let's just say Microsoft, everybody knows Microsoft, nice, big, beautiful company worth, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Anybody can go and purchase a share of Microsoft, and that what that does is it gives them a portion of Microsoft's ownership, which at this point, who knows, if they have 1 million shares, it gives them one millionth of a share. But we all know that it's more than that right now. And on top of that, what it does is it gives you a right to their earnings. So that's really cool. What that means is, let's say Microsoft has an amazing year. They decide to, buy whatever company that's got a revolutionary changing product, and their company starts selling, Microsoft starts selling tons and tons and tons of products. Well, if Microsoft makes, and another simple, for instance, if Microsoft makes $1 million, then your one millionth of a share can then earn a dollar. So that's net earnings. That's, we're assuming this is money that they're going to give away. And there's so many more rules. But that's your portion of income, which is really cool because as an owner of the company, you're eligible to receive a portion of their earnings. Now, let's get even crazier. And let's say that Microsoft just developed the, I don't know, flying car, right? We all seen the Jetsons, it's coming, right? Microsoft just developed the first flying car. Well, that's fantastic. Their earnings have now gone from $1 million a year to $100 billion a year. Okay. Well, now you get a portion of your one millionth of that share. And on top of that, the company, because they're earning so much more money, any other person wants to invest in it. They're thinking, wow, if Microsoft's going to keep making this kind of money, I'm going to be eligible to earn more and more money as my part owner. Well, that means that your share in value is more desirable. And just like supply and demand that we learned in first year economics or potentially even in high school, Timmy, that means that more people are going to want your share, which means you can sell it for more. And that's a really valuable piece of investing in stocks. And that's how stocks grow in value. You can either grow through earnings and earnings potential, or you can grow in the promise. Let's just say the promise of a stock, the ability to out of nowhere produce the Jetsons lifestyle. So those are two different valuable ways to invest in stocks. Now with that,
Gotta ask you a
naturally,
question about the stocks for a moment.
absolutely.
Okay, because so I wasn't crazy. So owning a stock, going to buy, let's say for example, I sold two pairs of shoes and now I have $10,000 worth of Apple shares, right?
Mm,
So I'm an owner in the company, right?
mm.
So two things. I go down to the Apple store and I come in, I'm like, I'm the owner. I got here's my shares, there's my value. I need a couple iPhones. Don't worry, just write them off. I'm gonna take them. They wouldn't hand me my phones, even though I'm an owner in the company. And when they have their board of directors meetings, I don't have a seat at the table. And apparently I'm not invited. Like, what is going on with this, Zach? Am I not an owner of the company now?
So you are an owner of the company, but when it comes to companies that are publicly traded, there has to be a level of responsibility implemented outside of the owner. Why? Well, there's a conflict like you just presented, and then there's general bias. And again, there's so many more reasons that they implement things like a board of directors. But as a part owner, you're eligible to invest and receive the earnings. You're not eligible to just take what you want. Now, the value in that is if you're going to buy an iPhone and you spend whatever it is, $1,000, well, the part of the earnings that Apple just earned is going to be attributed to you because you're a part owner. But you don't just get to pretty much do whatever you want. And because companies like, for instance, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet are publicly traded companies, they have board of directors, which more often than not are generally chosen by the most influential shareholders. So they're not the people like you and I, which own one millionth of the company. They're the people who own 40% of it. They're, the Mark Zuckerbergs, right? Where Facebook, Meta now is still a publicly traded company, but everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg still owns whatever, 30% of it, 20% of it, and is a majority shareholder. So Mark Zuckerberg is going to be a person choosing the board of directors, and the board of directors does exactly as it sounds. It directs the company. So there's value in that, but I wish that I could just buy a share of Apple and then go get my own iPhone.
So that's how stocks work. So
Cool.
now, if I want to go the other route, these things called bonds, what the
Yeah,
heck are
so
what are those?
a lot of people will choose to go bonds or stocks or a mix of both. Stocks, the value in stocks is if you invest in very, well-known, renowned company, generally speaking, over time, the value should go up of your stock, and then therefore your investment produces a positive return. Not always the case. There are companies which unfortunately, hit a downtrend, and then next thing you know, they're just losing and losing and losing money. And there's a much greater risk associated with that, which is why some stock investments will turn people away and it will turn them more towards bonds. Bonds are really cool. And the simplest way of thinking of a bond is just as a piece of debt. right? It's just like any form of debt that any company has issued, any person has taken on, right? So it could be debt like your mortgage, debt like a line of credit, debt like car financing. And the reason I say that is because when a company issues bonds, or more often than not, and more popularly, a government issues bonds, what they're trying to do is raise capital for their purposes without giving away ownership, right? Which would be the stock route. What they'll do is they'll say, well, okay, if you lend us, let's say, we issue a bond for $1,000 to, let's say Timmy's going to say, okay, here, I'm going to lend you that $1,000, but the price that you're going to pay for taking this $1,000 as a loan from me is going to be, let's say $8 a month, every single month for the next 5 years. Okay, well, that sounds awfully similar to a mortgage, right? You go to a bank, they give you $500,000, and every single month you have to pay a portion back of the principal that they gave you of that $500,000. And on top of that, you have to pay interest. Well, it's the simplest way to think of a bond. And the value in bonds is that you have a claim to the company. It's essentially a liability, no different than a mortgage would be. And without getting into too many accounting terms, in doing so, and again, this is worst case scenario, if the company, whoever you loaned your money to, goes bankrupt, well, now you can start taking their assets, meaning you could start taking their stuff. So there have been cases where, Greece went bankrupt a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, a few years ago. Many companies have gone bankrupt. And as a bondholder, you go in, there's a liquidation sale of all of their stuff. And you say, okay, well, they owe me this much money, and you get your money back, which is really cool. But more often than not, that doesn't happen. And what it will give you is small, regular income. We call it fixed income in the investment community because we know, for instance, every single month we're going to get that $8 back. And then after 5 years, we're going to get our $1,000 back as well. And that's a really, really cool form of investment because there's not too much risk to it. A government won't often issue bonds unless they know they can afford to pay back the return. So if, let's say, again, we're working with Microsoft here and they want to develop the hoverboard or the flying car, and they know, for instance, they need $100 million to start, right? They'll go, and instead of giving out more shares, more ownership rights for other people, they'll say, we just need $100 million. So let's give $100 million worth of bonds. And the return on an investment that we can give them is, I don't know, 6% a year. So we'll give them 6% of the 100 million back every single year until 5 years from now. And then a person will go and they'll know, okay, well, Microsoft's a 50, 100, whatever it is, $billion company. I feel pretty confident giving them, a loan. So here we go. I'm going to buy a share of their loan. And that's really, really cool. And governments are very, very, very popular for issuing debt and these forms of bonds. So you'll find a lot of investment funds and a lot of really, really wealthy people buying government bonds because it's the greatest form of credit that you can have, right? You are the government, the regulatory body for everything, right? So you'll find a lot of people investing in those, and they're obviously much, much less risky in most cases than equities. Stocks.
So, question, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
I go down to the Lamborghini dealership and I want a Lamborghini. Okay.
Me too. Yeah.
All right. And they said to me, okay, so, you're going to have to register a lien against the car. Do you have credit? And I'm like, no, I'm good for this. I take out my piece of paper and I wrote bond issued by Jonathan, IOU, value of Lamborghini plus 5% per year. I'm good for it. I swear. I sign it. I hand it over to them and they laughed at me. So I'm going to take it that not everybody can issue a bond because it sounds to me like a really sophisticated IOU note.
Well, everybody can issue a bond. It's considered a promissory note in its most basic form. Not everybody's willing to take it. I can tell you that. So with any form of debt, in order to receive debt or take on debt, for instance, you have to do some form of underwriting, let's call it, right? So a mortgage broker, you go out for a mortgage, or you go to a bank underwriting process. And what does that process entail? It's basically just saying, hey, what can you show us that you're good and you're honest and you can qualify for something like this? What can you show us to know that you're going to pay us that $8 every single month when it's your time to pay us? So, the Lamborghini dealership probably laughed and said, okay, well, we need to see some finances. And that's a whole different story. But you have to look at what people are offering in order to really quantify whether it's a good investment. So the Lamborghini dealership is going to look at your finances. Is this a good investment for us? Is this guy going to be able to pay every single month for his Lamborghini? And what you're referring to is commonly known as financing, which is just another form of a loan, right? People go in, they buy a car. If they can't afford the whole thing, no different than a home, they'll put a down payment. And then a company, not necessarily Lamborghini, but a company that Lamborghini works with, will finance the vehicle for you. They'll give you a loan for the marginal amount, and you'll have to pay interest on it. No different.
So bottom line is stocks is owning the shares in the company and the bonds is lending them money and owning debt against them, essentially.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. So we've learned a little bit of finance today, plus how to save up for education,
Yeah.
which segues us to our last topic of the day, which are very important topic, to a bunch of people that own a bunch of stocks. Let's see them closer. There they are. Yeah. And have a bunch of bonds that have come due and time to pay the piper is Zachary Rain's Toronto Maple Leafs. Zach, this was supposed to be the year,
Yeah.
except Bobrovsky dipped into the magic water and turned back the hands of time and became the Bobrovsky that got that monster contract.
Yeah.
And when you run into a hot goalie, bad things can happen to you. Since then, there's become a he said, she said, or he said, he said. As far
Yeah.
as Kyle Dubas on his way back, I'll never play for another team, never work for another team, except I want more money and I want more control, even though I did squat. And okay, so now I'm not going to be back. I want to do a recap of our 2022-2023 Maple Leaf season. Zachary, and
Mhm.
walk us through here at the end of the day. Sitting here as a Maple Leaf fan, do you feel overall, you beat the one horse, you got through the first round.
Yep.
Are you feeling like this is a successful year or is this a letdown year? What's your feeling on the Leafs from the past season?
Okay. So, I try to dissect it in a few ways, right? So obviously the most important thing is they didn't win the Stanley Cup. So that's the most major loss there is. Though there are some wins, some losses, some victories per se. Um, would I say that would I say that it was a major loss this season for the Leafs? No. Would I say that, winning the first round only is a major win? Absolutely not. It's better than what they've done. So that's great. But at the end of the day, the job wasn't done, right? Like we're not paying them to win one round. I don't pay, well, everyone doesn't pay thousands of dollars to go see a Leafs game just to see them lose in the second round. We want that parade down Yonge Street. That's what we want. And we didn't get it this year. Though the Latvians got it right now, just in case anyone's wondering. At the World Cup, that's a different story. But the Leafs didn't have a horrible season. The regular season, I really couldn't care too much about because it's a means to an end. The playoff season, I want to give Dubas credit for building a team that was, in my eyes, built to win the Stanley Cup. And I still believe that. I think the majority of the blame actually should go to Sheldon Keefe. I think he was outcoached for both playoff rounds. I don't think anybody thinks otherwise. It was very obvious considering they were losing the majority of all of the games they played, and then they willed it out in the last 10 minutes of every game. So I don't really think that Dubas did a poor job. I would blame Keefe mainly. I think Dubas is a fool with the most recent situation, trying to get the president of hockey operations less control of hockey operations, which is again speculation as of now. But like, what the hell are you thinking? Like John, you run a business. Does it make sense for somebody to come up to you below you to say, "Hey, we don't want you to run the business"? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I've seen that and don't know where they are now, but they ain't with me. So,
Exactly, it makes no sense.
but the Pittsburgh Penguins are quite excited because they're saying to Kyle Dubas, "We're going to hold off on our search until you give us the okay because we really want you." I think he's going to the Penguins.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would agree. Um, Especially considering he's already had meetings, again unconfirmed, but with Malkin and Crosby. You don't meet with those two unless it's serious. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's an announcement in the next week or so. Kyle Dubas is the new GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Um, so we'll see that. It looks like the Leafs are going to go for tree living, which I don't love. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. Um, but it wasn't a major failure. I think there are some wins to take out of the playoffs because again, the playoffs is what we're all here for. Morgan Riley, for I want to say the first time in his career, played like a $10 million defenseman, which is awesome. He was a number one defenseman. I will be the first to say that I admit I was wrong about him. What he did in the playoffs was spectacular. He is worth every single dollar of that $7.5 million that they're going to be paying him moving forward. No complaints about him. Mitch Marner, not worth nearly the 11 million bucks that they're giving him right now. John Tavares, again, almost 100-point season, like really, really quality player, but also not worth the
Yes.
11 million bucks. And you can see age is catching up to him, and he's not what he once was. And in the playoffs, again, first round great, second round disappeared. Mitch Marner, first round okay, second round disappeared. Austin Matthews, first round okay, second round okay. Is Matthews worth the 15 million bucks that he's asking for? Supposedly, not even remotely close. Um, so we'll see. I'm
You
not in
think
love with
you think
it.
that Matt Mrazek, I'm sorry, Murray is going to be back?
No, not a chance. Joseph Wool have I admitted that I was wrong about him yet?
Yeah, you can admit it again.
Okay, I'm going to admit it again. I was wrong about him. I'll give it to him. Kid was stellar, very calm, very relaxed in key pressure moments. Um, I'll take my oats on that one, whatever it is. But very good for him. Will he be the starter next year? I don't think so, but he's for sure the backup. He's the undisputed backup.
I mean, you think about it, since Felix Potvin, who have they developed in goal? I mean, a moment of silence for Justin Pogge. He just announced his retirement. Justin, we thought you were going to be the guy, and we were so confident in you that we decided Tuukka Rask was not really needed. And he went on to have a pretty decent career, did he not, Zach?
Who took Rask?
Tuukka Rask did okay, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard of him before. I think he did
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I think we may have been better off trading Poggy, but Poggy, but that's how it goes in the world of goaltending. It's again, I think the Panthers are winning Stanley Cup this year. Bobrovsky,
Oh
their biggest problem in the earth right now is who's going to be the Conn Smythe winner between him and Kachuk, and that's a good problem
absolutely.
now.
But it's an amazing problem. My father always taught me coaching, and it's something we learned, and I can attest to over my coaching career that, you know, forwards win you games, defense win you playoffs, goalies win you championships. It's an old expression. I'm for sure, neither is my father the one who created it. But it's something that we've, really used in coaching. And you can see that. Like Bobrovsky just must have fallen on his head or whatever happened. He snapped back into it and he said, okay, I'm going to be the best goalie in the world again, even though I haven't been even remotely close to that good for years. But yeah, I'm going to do it because I want to and I can. And okay. And next thing you know, the guy's turning away 40, 50 shots a game. And in low, like these are the Florida Panthers who were letting in 4 or 5 goals a game in a regular season. If they let in one or two now, it's like a major shock here. So good for him.
Remember when
At
I
the end of the
texted you and I
day,
told you anybody could have a Bobrovsky for nothing? They would have just happily got rid of that contract at any point.
yeah,
And now the guy's going to lead them to the championship. Who they going to be facing in the Stanley Cup final, by the way, Zach?
uh, it's got to be Vegas. I don't see Dallas. Vegas needs one, Dallas needs two. I think Dallas, the fact they've gotten to is admirable. I'll give it to them. But 4 games in a row to win, that's a tough hill to climb.
And I got a feeling Vegas is just going to come up short again. I don't know. And again, let's congratulate them. I mean, they're on goalie number 5 right now. So,
Yeah, I know, right?
which is something that the Leafs couldn't do. But pretty neat how that works out. And, in basketball, we're calling Denver and Miami, but Boston has something to say about that. In the world of playoffs, you just never, ever know. It can go in a short series. As Steve Carsey would say, you never, ever know. So, what are we going to be seeing out of the Leafs coming into the upcoming season, Zach? As we sum up today, you're seeing that there's going to be a new GM. You think there's going to be a new coach more than likely. And if you're a betting man, who's the most likely going to be out as far as the top three on the Leafs line? You think it's going to be Marner? Do you think it's going to be Matthews? Or do you think it's going to be Tavares, who has no trade clause, by the way? Who do you think is most likely going to be moving? Or they all come back? Or Nylander?
No, no, they're all coming back. No one's going to trade for Marner because he's just like 11 million bucks. It's a massive trade, and the Leafs won't get what they require out of him. Tavares won't go anywhere. He won't let it happen, which I don't blame him. It's the reason he got the no trade clause in. Matthews, they won't trade him simply because, again, he was okay for both series. And I think there's just, he had a major down year. Like, let's just call it, compared to the previous year, 60 goals. It wasn't what we were expecting out of him. Maybe because he was more defensively strong. I'll give him credit on that front. But I still think that there's more to develop from him. And he is, or at least he can be a generational player for a team. And he's not worth trading. Marner, I would say in the regular season was even more valuable than Matthews was, but the guy was a complete just milk carton for the whole playoffs. No one knows where the guy was. So, he'd be my guess if anybody, but he's not going anywhere. And William Nylander, for the money they're paying him right now, has been fantastic. I wouldn't trade him at all, especially in the playoffs. He was still the best of the four of them again.
But isn't
So
his
I think they're
contract
going
up?
to be
Isn't
back.
his contract up soon?
Is his contract up? I
I
think
think it's a couple of
next
years
year
now.
with
Yeah.
Matthews. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I think there's for sure going to be a new coach. He wasn't given a fair shot to start because of the whole COVID situation, Canadian division, and all that stuff. But he he wasn't even close to Paul Maurice or into John Cooper in those first two rounds. Like, he wasn't even close to being coached at the same to coaching at the same level as those two, which he's not either one of them. Paul Maurice, lifer in the NHL. John Cooper, multiple Stanley Cups over the last couple of years. So I'll give him that much. But he like, they weren't even in the same league. I say that as a pun. So there's no reason for him to come back. And whoever the next GM of the Leafs will decide who they're going to replace him with.
My sources are telling me that Corey Perry is going to be the addition, which is going to put them over the top. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't think so. Corey Perry can't figure it out right now. I can't blame him. But I would love Corey Perry to play on our team. He's I wouldn't say he's the ultimate pest. I think Kachuk has for sure defined himself as the ultimate pest in the NHL. Skill, brawn, that edgy play, and winning 52 overtimes in one season. So, I don't think he's up there anymore, but definitely a solid fourth liner.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. And as more Leafs news come out, obviously in the off season, we'll be sharing it with our fans and our viewers. And Zachary Rain of Rain Finance, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today on how to make money, how to save money, all these vehicles for money management. People will be able to reach you. We'll put your handles, obviously.
Thank you,
And
thank you, thank you.
appreciate your wisdom and joining us as always here on The Chosen Life. Any last
Thank
final
you.
any last final words for everybody on the money end?
Uh
Last money tips?
yeah, create a good budget. Just budget yourself, manage your money, track your money, make sure you're keeping yourself honest. And for the love of God, don't go spend more than you make. It's happening all the time now. Live within your means. Just everybody can figure it out one way or another, figure it out. But you can do it. There's hope. The sun's going to come up again tomorrow, and it'll be another day for us to figure things out. So thank you again, John, for keeping me on. I love these podcasts. It's so much fun. And yeah, everybody keep your heads held high. Okay. No matter what, we'll figure it out.
There's never a shortage of ideas here on the show, and also spreadsheets. Spreadsheets work. That's something that
Absolutely.
I learned later in life, but putting it down on paper and sticking to the spreadsheet, life is so much easier. Zachary Rain, Rain Finance. We'll see you back real soon on The Chosen Life. And as we end every episode, we pull out the
Thank
guns
you. Yes, sir.
and we say,
Keep on living the chosen life.
thank you.
Thank you.